What's up?
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Nexus. Evil comes in many forms, like through...
So, guys, what's up? Yep. Let's just get on with this video. And oh yeah, guys, if you're watching this, you're the new gangsters. New gangsters, in fact, new gangsters.
Cultist serial killer Charles Manson, who thought he heard messages in Beatles songs telling him to kill people, or Hitler's quest to achieve the master race through ethnic cleansing. Somehow, those stories are easier to stomach than stories about children committing similar atrocities, so I better warn you that if you have high morals or a weak stomach, to maybe keep away from this list. With that in mind, watch this video to find out the 10 most evil children in history. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get new content.
If I meet these children, I'm bloody beating them up. Don't send them right out to me.
Similar to this every day.
And
for this video, let's see if we can hit the golden like button, which is 1,000 likes, so make sure to drop a like down below.
Oh yeah, guys, don't type in taco. Don't type in taco. Every time I fall asleep, I dream of tacos, and the only song that goes on, it's raining taco song. I hate
on
it.
our list goes to John Venables and Robert Thompson, who were convicted in the UK in 1993 for the murder of toddler James Bulger, when they themselves were only 10. This is one of the most grotesque and infamous murder cases in British history, and not all the details have actually been released or were told to James Bulger's mother because the information was and still is too harrowing. Venables and Thompson remain the youngest ever convicted murderers in England's history, and both murderers were released when they were 18 and were given new identities, currently free. The crime happened when Bulger's mother looked away only for a moment, and he was abducted by 2 older boys from a shopping center in Liverpool. 2 days later, his body was found on a railway, 2.5 miles away from the abduction site. Number 9. In November 1998 in Florida, a 14-year-old boy called Joshua Phillips was arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of an 8-year-old neighbor, Maddie Clifton. The girl was missing for a whole week until her body was found by Josh's mother hidden in his own waterbed, where he'd been sleeping for the whole week preceding the body's discovery. She was found beaten in the head with a baseball bat and with 11 stab wounds, prompting his conviction for murder, and Josh claims it was caused by a fear for what his abusive father would do if he found out the girl had been at their house at all. Josh Phillips is currently serving life in prison and works as a paralegal helping out other inmates, and does allegedly regret his actions, breaking down in tears and claiming that if he could take back what he did, he then would. Number 8. Returning to the UK again for the crimes of a girl named Mary Bell, who strangled 2 boys, aged just 4 and 3, to death in 1968. She was only 11. The killings took place 2 months apart, one on May 25th and one on July 31st, and both times the bodies were dumped on an abandoned stretch of wasteland in the city's suburbs. In the case of the second victim, she returned to the scene of the crime to mutilate the body even further, even carving the letter M onto him. Bell was found guilty of 2 counts of manslaughter on the grounds that she was already displaying psychopathic tendencies, which apparently arose from her mother's abuse of her and attempts to kill her when she was much younger. These days, she is rehabilitated and free, with her identity and the identity of her daughter protected by court order. Number 7. Edmund Kemper is yet another killer who's still alive today, but thankfully still in prison, serving 8 consecutive life sentences for his crimes, or anybody else. At the age of 15, he murdered his grandparents on his father's side and was put in prison until he was 21, and then was put into a hospital after being diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. He had all the classic hallmarks of a psychopath, even once burying his cat alive and decapitating it once it died. He's also 6'9" and has an IQ of 145, these making it easy for him to overpower his victims. Once he was released from prison for killing his grandparents as a teen, he went on another killing spree where he murdered female college students and engaged in sexual activities with the corpses, until he
hell no!
ultimately killed both his mother and his best friend. Number 6. Another psychopath with an initial history of violence towards animals is Beth Thomas, unique on this list as being one of the only ones to have never actually killed anyone. She sure did attempt it though, once bashing her younger brother John's head into the ground so hard he ended up hospitalized and needing stitches. She was featured in a documentary you may have heard of called The Child of Rage, which shows interviews with her at length explaining her earlier violent sexual abuse at the hands of her father, which led to her mental problems. Once she even killed an entire nest of baby birds and tortured a dog. However,
No.
Thomas is today completely rehabilitated and actually a nurse who helps children with conditions like she had. Number 5. So far, the violent incidents on this list have all been from the last century, but this one is scarily contemporary, happening on May 31st, just 3 years ago. In fact, it's so recent that it's still in the justice system. 12-year-old girls Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser lured a classmate into the woods in Wisconsin and stabbed her 19 times. Luckily, the victim was found by a cyclist who called 911 and the girl's life was saved. What makes this case so interesting, though, is that the girls claim they committed the crime to impress fictional internet character Slender Man, who I'm sure you've all heard of, who the girls apparently...
That is so stupid. Get out of here. Not copyright.